Hello, this is Femi Akojeno here, John Maxwell Certified Executive Coach. I want to highlight today one of the ways people deceive themselves and also deceive others. And that is by saying, I am working on it. Do you realize that many people, they love to say, I am working on it. And when they say that, the person they are saying it to is supposed to somehow believe that they are truly working on whatever they say they are working on. So, for example, let's say it's a character flaw, and maybe somebody highlighted or point out that character flaw. They may say something like, I'm working on it. Maybe they get angry a lot, and they may say something like, I'm working on it. Or for some people, it could be a habit that they have, and others notice around them, and so they will say something like, I'm working on it. What about those who maybe are looking to lose weight, as an example? And they may say to others, I'm working on it. Sometimes it's a lifestyle change, maybe that is needed, that is required of them. And so they will say something like, I'm working on it. Now, when you say, I'm working on it, many times you are really convincing yourself that you're really working on it. And sometimes you're convincing other people that you're working on it. So, why do I call it a deception? Well, I'll let you know why. The reason why I call this a deception is that in most cases, most people who say they are working on something, they are not working on it. Yeah, they are not working on anything. They say, I'm working on it, and you would have thought, oh, there is hope here. Oh, there's a change coming. But then now, they've been working on this thing for the past 20 years. That means they're not working on it. So I call it a deception because you can somehow deceive yourself to believe that you're working on something you're not working on. Or you deceive others to believe you're working on something you're not working on. Now, I saw something inside the Urban Dictionary. So I checked out the dictionary and I saw something, and it well describes what I'm talking about right now. The Urban Dictionary says, I'm working on it is a phrase used to give quick and satisfying response. Now that's amazing. So somebody is asking you something and you say, I'm working on it. And it could be anything else, right? Think of whatever, people ask you and you always say, I'm working on it. Well, it's a quick answer. It's a quick response and it's a satisfying response. Because if you tell somebody, I'm working on it, I mean, what are they supposed to say? They're somehow supposed to believe that you're really working on this thing. And so it's a phrase used to give quick and satisfying response without prompting another question. Look at that. So because when you say it, somebody just, oh, okay, you're working on it. Oh, all right. So they're not going to ask you anything else because you said you're working on it. So without prompting another question, especially, now look at this, especially, now this is the Urban Dictionary, and it just describes this thing perfectly. It says, especially when work is not being done. Especially when work is not being done. Do you realize that majority of people who say, I'm working on it, are actually doing nothing about it? They're doing nothing about it. Earlier today, I counseled somebody, or coached somebody rather, and we dealt with an issue. And this whole issue of I'm working on it. And I realized, of course, I had to question them on it. Okay, so exactly what are you doing about it? Nothing. So I give them some recommendations on how to do something about it. Do you realize that many times when people say, I'm working on it, I don't care what it is, in most cases, they are doing nothing. They are doing nothing. Now, I don't want you to deceive yourself by telling yourself, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. When you are really not growing, you're really not changing, and you are doing nothing about it. I don't want you to be deceiving others as well around you, and you are giving them a false hope. They are believing somehow that, oh, wow, since you're working on it, something is about to change. For them to discover 10 years later, 20 years later, nothing has changed because in reality, you have not done anything about it. Now, I want to show you how to work on anything. So if you look in your own life right now, and there's something you want to work on. You actually want to work on something. Well, I want you to get you past the stage of I am working on it. Sometimes you may actually really mean it. You want to work on this thing. You really desire a change in this area. But all you have said so far is I'm working on it. Now, I want to show you how to get past that. Don't just say I'm working on it. So you need to do some things. Let me show you about 3 or 4 things that you can begin to do to actually work on whatever it is. And this will actually lead to real progress in your life. Number 1, whenever you say, I'm working on it, make sure after you've said that you now devise a plan or you create a plan. So if I'm going to work on a character flaw, for example, let's say patience, then devise a plan, create a plan. How do I become more patient? How do I begin to practice patience? Right? So devise a plan. Now, think about what are the times that you don't practice patience? What are the things or areas in your life where you don't practice patience? Note that down. And I want to say, preferably as you are doing this, please have a pen in your hand and a paper or a notebook and write down some things. Okay, I want to work on patience. So which areas do I lack patience? Write them down. And then also know when I have patience in this area, what would that look like? So you know where you're trying to get to. You know where the end result will be. So note that down as well. Then now begin to write down how to practice. So whenever this, maybe for example, yours is patience, right? Maybe you are the kind of person, whenever you're in the supermarket, you cannot wait on any line. You lack so much patience. It's not because there's no time at all. It's just that you lack patience. So then you say to yourself, you know what? Well, when I get to the supermarket, well, there's nothing wrong with choosing the shortest line if you want. But even in that short line, once you have committed to a line, you stay there. It doesn't even matter if the next line gets shorter. You say, you know what? I'm practicing patience. Now, practicing patience doesn't mean you go and just unnecessarily get on the long line. Yes, of course, you still want to, save some time, but you don't jump from place to place to place to place. You say, you know what? Once I've committed myself to this line, I'm staying there. So you are conscious about that and you're practicing that. Now, it could be in some other areas of your life. Maybe, okay, you get on the line and instead of trying to skip the line and trying to cut corners, you say, you know what? I'm practicing patience. So guess what? I'm going to stay on this line and I'm going to wait my turn, right? So you are noting things down that you're actually going to start doing. So you need to have a plan, right? A goal in mind. So if you say you're working on anything, the question is, what goal do you have in this area? What are you actually trying to achieve in this area? For example, let's say you say, I'm working on my weight. Do you know that some people, they have been saying they're working on their weight for the longest, but there's no plan. There's no plan. Now, for someone who has a plan and they are saying, okay, I'm working on my weight, then how much pounds do I want to lose? So, well, I want to lose 10 pounds. Okay, fine. So how do you lose this 10 pounds? I'm going to go to the gym. So, okay, let me subscribe to a gym membership, right? Okay, so now you're actually getting the ball rolling. You are actually doing something about this. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. You're actually doing something now. You're actually having a plan in place now. So I want to lose 10 pounds. And instead of me forever saying, I'm working on it, and you've been working on this losing weight for the longest, now you're actually going to have a plan. Okay, well, maybe you don't have time for a gym. Okay, so maybe on your way from work, you can walk instead of taking the bus. Okay, you know what? I'm going to walk 2 miles every day because I'm working on it and I'm actually doing something about it. Do you see? You have a plan and then you are following the plan. So you create a plan. Okay, I'm working on my weight. So you need to know how much exactly do you want to lose, because you cannot say you're working on anything and you don't know the end result. You don't know the destination you're trying to get to. Anytime you say you're working on anything, you need to know the end result. Okay, I'm working on this character flaw. The end result is I stop getting angry. Or I stop, trying to slap people. I stop whatever it is, right? You have an end result in mind. And then you create an action plan and you begin to actually do it. You say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You create a list for yourself because I'm working on it. So number one, if you're going to work on anything in your life, you need to actually have a plan. You need to actually have a goal in mind. This is what I want to accomplish. I'm working on it. What about your finances? Your finances is a mess right now. Are you working on it? Don't just say I'm working on it. The question is, what goal do you have? Maybe you have a credit, right? Your credit is short. It's messed up. All right, work on it. Work on it. I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, my credit was bad. I haven't bought anything new, really anything major in a while. So who cares? Who cares about credit? So credit was just messed up. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to work on my credit because in case I may need to buy anything with my credit, let me just work on it. Not because I necessarily have something in mind to buy at that time. I just said I'll work on it. And so guess what? I got a credit report. I look at my credit report. I began to dispute whatever I can dispute. I began to pay down. I begin to read up on how to, work on my credit. And I literally work on my own credit till I got to 700 and something. From 5 something to 700 and something without any professional help, just on my own, working on it. I was literally, I signed up for Credit Karma, and I would check, and he gives some recommendations sometimes. Oh, if you pay down on this, or if your credit card usage is less than 30% or something like that, so it tells you how to get to boost the scores. And I just started doing whatever it says, right? Because I'm working on it. I am working on it. So when you say you are working on it, let somebody be able to actually hear from you what you have actually started doing. Because you cannot say you are working on anything and you cannot say, I am actually doing this, I am doing that, I am doing this, I am doing that. Working on it means you're actually doing something. Don't say I'm working on anything and you don't have anything you're doing. Then you are not working on anything, right? And you're just shutting people down, you're just shutting people up, and you're deceiving yourself. No, you don't want to do that because you cannot grow telling yourself, I'm working on something, and there's nothing you're working on, all right? So you need to have a goal in mind, and you need to have a plan, right? An action plan, so that you can get to this goal that you have in mind. Number 2, whenever you say you are working on something, after you've created the plan, after you have a goal in mind, then make sure that you set this goal in such a way that it is measurable. It is measurable. So I can track how I am doing. You're able to evaluate the success of what you've been doing so far. So in the case of somebody who says, I'm working on my weight. Well, maybe after a month, maybe after a week, you want to be able to track, okay, how have I been doing so far? You get on the scale, you see that, wow, I have lost 2 pounds. I'm doing well so far. My goal is 20 pounds. I've lost 2 pounds. Well, then the next month or the next week, you get on again. Wow, I've lost such and such, amount of pounds. You're working on it, right? If it's a character flaw, then you're working on that too. So you're tracking that too. Okay, how many times have I failed or have I won or succeeded in doing this particular thing this week? So you're tracking and say, wow, this is good. Wow, I've done this good thing that I set as a goal. I've done it every day this week. Wow, we're getting somewhere. Or you see, oh man, I didn't do well at all. Okay, fine. You didn't do well. Don't mean that you shouldn't try next week. So next week now, make a plan to do well. So if you failed maybe 3 times this week, make it a goal that, okay, if you fail at all, it will be 2 times next week. And then the following week, if you fail at all, it will be 1 time next week. And the following week, it will be 0 time that you fail at it. Right? So you're setting a goal and you're measuring it. So you want to make sure that when you are working on anything, you can evaluate it. So structure it in such a way that you can evaluate it. So if, for example, you've been doing something that you shouldn't be doing, maybe you are eating the wrong food, for example, and you notice, okay, fine, you eat it 5 times in a week, and you say, you know what, I want to quit this thing. I want to quit eating this thing. Well, guess what? You set it as a goal, and you say, okay, I'm going to replace this thing with this other thing, right? So you practice that, the first week, and maybe instead of eating this junk food, instead of eating this thing that you shouldn't be eating, right? And it could be any other habit that you're trying to quit. Instead of doing this thing 5 times, you reduce it to 2 times. you're getting somewhere. You're getting somewhere. You always want to focus on progress, not necessarily perfection, especially in the beginning, right? You just want to know, am I making progress here? Because I'm saying I'm working on it. So working on it means I'm getting there. I have a goal in mind and I'll get there. So by the time you get to the second week, the third week, you find out that, wow, I've actually completely gotten rid of this bad food. I'm no longer eating it anymore. I've replaced it with something healthy. I'm working on it. Now, that leads me to something else very important. In some cases, some of the things you're working on, you may need to replace it with an alternative, right? So maybe you're working on not watching certain, type of content. Well, you replace it with a good content. Well, you're working on not doing certain type of things, you're replacing it with something else. Sometimes it works better like that you are replacing what is bad with what is good. It's all part of working on it. You're working on it. Now, the fourth thing I want to mention is this. Anytime you're working on something, then you need to be timely about it. In other words, there has to be a timestamp to this thing. In other words, by when will this be over? By when will I accomplish this? Don't say you are working on something and you are working on it for 20 years. You've been saying that for 20 years. 20 years. So where's the progress? So if you say you want to work on something, I don't care what it is, even if it's a character flaw, right? A habit you want to break, right? A lifestyle change, right? Anything, whatever it is. You want to work on your credit. You want to work on your career. You want to anything. I don't care what it is. You want to have a time that you want to get it done. Because that's how people get anything done. Can I tell you this? Many times when people say, I'm going to do this, including working on something, if you don't add time to it, it never happens. It never happens. Some of you listening to me right now, there are goals you have set in your life. You have said, I will buy a house. The only problem is you never said when you will buy it. And guess what? You've been saying I'll buy a house for 20 years now, and it hasn't happened. You know why? Because you never said I'll buy it this year. The moment you add time to it, there's something it does. It gets you creative. It gets you like, the fact that you say, I want to buy a house by September. You know what it does? It makes you to begin to do something about it. Okay, you call the realtor, you call the mortgage company. If you're going the mortgage route, or if you have the cash, you put your cash together, or you start to do whatever to get the cash so that you can buy this thing in cash. However you are doing it, but the point is this: it gets you moving, it gets you into action. But when you don't put timestamp to anything, it doesn't happen. Have you noticed that? It does not happen if you don't say, this is the time I'm going to get it done. So anything you want to get done, make sure you put a time to it. I could tell you this for a fact. In my own life, I've seen it. Anytime I've put time to anything, I get it done. If I don't put time, I don't get it done. And guess what? It's not just me. It's global. This thing is just how it happens with humankind, right? This is just how it is. You don't put time. Well, since you never put a time, so you feel like you have next year, you have 5 years, you have 10 years, because you never put a time to it. Do you know that, for example, even in marriage, if you never put a time to when you would like to get married, you may not get married at all. So you may get into a good relationship that can potentially lead to marriage, but you just feel like you're just having fun. Yes, hey, I have a nice relationship and stuff. In your mind, there's no time to this. But when you say, you know what, I'm not saying that in the case of marriage that the date or time that you set always works out, but at least there's in your mind like, okay, if you find the ideal situation, the right relationship, that's okay, I'll go ahead and make it happen, right? But if you don't have any time at all, in mind at all, you could just continue on in a relationship endlessly, and it leads nowhere. Do you get the point? You need to put time to anything that you say you are working on. And number 5, you need to have accountability. Accountability. Now, some people are self-accountable, so to speak, right? Some people are like that, but most people need an accountability partner. So when you're saying, okay, I'm working on this, being able to find a good friend who can kind of like watch you and remind you and check on you, there's something he does. Because I don't want my friend to ask me, okay, how is it going now? What is the progress of this thing? Okay, you have set you have set a goal to start your own business this year. How is that going? Have you called this person? Have you called that person? Have you registered yet? Have you gotten that EIN yet? Have you got opened that bank account yet? Have you, looked into getting that contract yet? Sometimes when you have somebody who's checking on you, there's something he does. It makes you, I don't want to tell them I haven't done it. And especially if you're truly serious about growing, if you're truly serious about working on it, you don't want to tell them a lie because you want to truly work on it. So you want to use the fact that they're checking on you to have something to give to them, to say to them. So you're saying, oh man, I've not done it this week. Okay, you know what? I don't want to repeat that again. I don't want to say that again. So let me get the ball rolling. Do you know that sometimes if you know your friend is going to ask you tomorrow and all week long you have done nothing, it will make you do something tonight, because by the time my friend asks me tomorrow, I don't want to say I didn't do nothing. So it will get you going. So sometimes accountability can go the long way, right, in helping us. So if you have a good friend who supports you, who believes in you, and can check on you and can help you, to call on you and to remind you and to say, hey, how is it going? And that kind of a thing. There's a way it can help you to keep on working on this thing that you want to work on. All right? And then let me also say this. Talking about accountability, sometimes there are some things that are better worked with other people. Some things are better worked with other people because, you see, they can see and check how good you are doing. They can be able to grade you. I remember a point in my life, I had someone that we were both working on something. So we said, okay, how are you doing with this area? So we listed where I'm weak and where they are weak, right? And we put scores. Okay, the areas where I'm weak, we put a score. Okay, 5 is the highest. Okay, you are a 3 at this one. You are a 4 at this one. You are a 5 at the other one. But, okay, where you are a 3, where you are a 4, okay, let's work on getting it to a 5. And so the same thing for me, the same thing for them, right? And so week after week, we say, okay, let's evaluate. Now, some of these things are things we can watch each other and see how we're doing. So, okay, maybe how I'm doing with communication. Am I doing better? Okay, all right. So I see that you have improved your communication. Okay, how you're doing with this other thing. Are you doing better? Okay, I've seen that you haven't changed yet. You're still kind of the same and stuff like that. There are certain things that having a friend that you can kind of work on it together can help you with. So if you have such things in your life, I'm not saying it's always the case, but if you have such things in your life, then find a partner that you can kind of work on this thing together and say, you know what, I want you to work with me on this. I want you to check to see how I'm doing with this. I want you to be evaluating me week after week until you can say, I'm at a 5. That I've, yes, perfected this thing. Right? So any behavior that maybe you feel you're kind of selfish, okay, so you can tell your best friend, am I growing? Am I becoming, less selfish, so to speak, until you get rid of that selfishness from your life. So you have this friend who's kind of checking on you. They are close enough to see whether you're selfish or not, right? And they can help you to work on that. So I have just given you about 5 points that you can put to practice or put to use when you actually say you're working on something. Please stop saying I'm working on something and you are not doing anything. Many people just like saying that, but they have not done nothing. If you ask them all these things that you have been saying, I'm working on it, what have you done? Nothing. What's your plan? Nothing. So from today, anytime you say I'm working on it, make sure you do these 5 things. Number 1, you have a plan and a goal, right? A goal and an action plan. Working with it, preferably written down. Number 2, you have a measurable plan. It's very important that you have a measurable plan. Now, I give you number 3 out of my head because I didn't write it down, right? So if you remember number 3, then number 3, then number 4, timely, right? Make sure it's timely. And then number 5, make sure you have a kind of accountability partner to help you with this. So that from today on, whenever you say, I'm working on it, let it be real. Let it actually be real. Let it not just be something you are saying to deceive yourself and to deceive other people. Once again, my name is Femi Akojenu. I'm a John Maxwell certified executive coach. If you have watched this and you like it, please go ahead and click like and comment on this. Let me know what you have learned from this video. And if you're watching me on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. And also press the notification bell on YouTube. And if you're watching on Facebook, please go ahead and like this page and also share this information with others so that they too can make use of it. All right. Also, check out my website, www.femiakojeno.com. www.femiakojeno.com. I'm sure you will love what you see there. If you need one on one coaching, reach out to me. If you need coaching for your business, for your ministry, for your organization, I do corporate coaching as well. If you need me to train your staff and all that, reach out to me. The information is on my website, femiakojeno.com. If you're outside of the US and you need me to come, I'll be glad to come to whatever country you are in. So just reach out to me and we'll be able to talk and arrange it. All right. So check out my various resources on that same website. I'm sure there are one or two things that you can be useful to you on the website. I want to thank you for watching this video, and please go ahead and share this experience with somebody else. Until next time, start working on it. Thank you.